which then would track the record that resembles to this board. I wanted to come on and speak because I have lived in this district for 30 plus years. And everyone knows that Riverview Gardens has my heart. It truly does. And I want what's best for the community, the students, and the staff of this district. I'm not here to point any fingers or any name calling, but I see a lot of things that are going on in our state of Missouri today. There are a lot of concerns, and we must be concerned about us coming together and being able to move forward on behalf of the community and the school districts of our community. I'm not going to sit by and watch our school district be taken over by the state or by individuals that do not care or have the concerns of individuals that reflect our community. I just wanted to make it clear that I work on behalf of the community and definitely the children of this community. If anyone wants to speak with me, my door is always open. I'm available to any and every one of you for a conversation. It would be gladly appreciated. And I hope that we can have some kind of conversation so that we can work together to make it better for this community and our school district. And so again, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak tonight, because if anybody knows me, I'm the type of person that you can come to me. You can speak with me and find out exactly what's being said, who said it, or whatever. It was my first desire when I took office that I write House Bill 567 because of the students of this district. That was my idea, and I'm standing on it because I want the best for this community, nothing more. And if we all feel the same about the children and the employees and staff of this community, then let's have a conversation and try to make it better and move forward. And again, thank you. I appreciate your time.
And thank you for your comments. As usual, I will respond in writing on behalf of the board, and you will get that very promptly. Thank you.
I would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Surely. The next item, the superintendent's report, Dr. Spurgeon.
Yes, thank you. The first item on the agenda under the superintendent's report is Dr. Singleton's presentation on clarifications on the average salary increases and salary enhancements for this evening. So Dr. Singleton.
Good evening to the Special Administrative Board, Dr. Beckwith, Mrs. Oswald, Mrs. Morrow Real, colleagues, community, and stakeholders. Tonight, we will try to add some clarity to the discussion or to the SAB approved salary schedule related to weighted average. I know there have been numerous questions. My office has fielded a number of these questions, as well as human resources. And I've met with a number of employees as well during my rounds in the school district, and everyone has certainly expressed their concerns or questions related to weighted average. So I just wanted to share briefly some information on weighted average. So Ms. King, thank you. So a brief definition of what a weighted average means. Weighted average basically looks at the overall summary of the average raises and increases for each category. Let me just give you a real simple example. If there were 3 people who got a 5% raise, and there were 2 people who got an 8% raise, and there were 8 people that got a 9% raise, the overall weighted average for that entire category would come out to about a 7.92% raise. Now, that does not mean that all the individuals would have gotten the same raise. Again, you see 3 individuals got a 5% raise, 2 individuals got an 8% raise, and 8 individuals got a 9% raise. But the overall weighted average looks at the people as well as the amount of raise or the percentage of increase, and it gives a weight. It looks at the overall people and adds the weight. And so that is the agreement that the union and the Special Administrative Board reached in terms of the salary schedule this time. I know there's some confusion that people saw the overall weighted average and thought that that was particular to their individual situations, but that was not the case in a number of instances. So if you go to the next slide, Ms. King, and we will just give some examples.
Right,
So
and let
for
me, Dr. Singleton, let me make a statement that after each slide, I'm going to give board members an opportunity to make questions rather than waiting to the end. And also, correction, the RGNEA only negotiated on behalf of the teachers and not all employees.
Right, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Beckwith, for that correction there. So I will just proceed with the teachers' overall weight. And as Dr. Beckwith mentioned, the agreement between the teachers, RGNEA and the SAB, was that the teachers' raises would have an overall weight of 7.5%. Now, that does not mean every teacher would get a 7.5% raise. I want to be very clear. So I took a couple of examples from the different scales. So I looked at the bachelor's scale, step 2, and there were 17 individuals there. The previous salary in 2020, 2021 was $39,971. And the increase to $43,250 was an 8.2% raise. If you were at a master step 20, there was one individual there. The salary went from $74,523 to $78,803.51. And again, that raise ended up being 5.74. And so we looked at comparison data with other school districts. And so that's where the conversation led, or the directive was led about the weighted average. I'll pause right here, Dr. Beckwith.
Right. Any question?
I have no question.
Okay. Just a question, Dr. Singleton. Why isn't the comparison, and I'm getting the feedback. Is there anything we could do about the feedback?
I'll check my phone.
Okay, good. I got it. Why wouldn't it, you compare a bachelor's on the second step with another bachelor's on a step rather than comparing a bachelor's with the master's?
So it wasn't for comparison purposes, Dr. Beckwith, to compare the bachelor's and master's. What I did was the real comparison is on the percentage of increase. So what I wanted to do was find variations on the salary schedule where there were some raises that were close to the weighted average and then some that came in maybe slightly higher or lower. So that's the reason that these two numbers were chosen, simply because one was higher than the weight and one was lower than the weighted average.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. To the next slide, Ms. King. We also wanted to choose from the custodial salary schedule. So we saw that at one particular lead custodian on a step 10, the salary was $39,998. Last year, the new salary went to $43,680, and that was a 9.2% increase. On the regular custodian salary, step 3, we saw a number at $30,284.80. The new number went to $31,928. There were a couple people there, and so the percentage of increase there was a 5.43. Okay, so just simply showing you the variations and the different weights that were applied to these schedules. Are there any questions here?
No questions. Continue.
Okay, next schedule. Food service, we did get quite a few calls about food service, and I wanted to make sure that we included an example here. The overall weight percentage increase for food service was 9.87. That is what the SAB had approved. Again, we looked at salary data across other comparison districts. We looked at Ed Plus data. And so we wanted to make sure that our starting wages were competitive with other districts. So let's look at a cook on a new hire step. Their annual salary was $11,795.52 last year. The salary went to $12,936. We had about 13 people there, and that was about a 9.67% increase. On the assistant manager scale, for instance, down a little further, step 6, $20,021.76 last year's salary, and the current year's salary of $21,193.92. There were a couple individuals there, and so they received a 5.85 increase. And I think as you go along, you'll see the general rule of thumb is that the weight of the increase was higher at the beginning of the salary schedules. That was one of the things that we talked about when we were talking about attracting and retaining and filling some of those vacancies. We had to make sure that the beginning of our salary schedules were competitive to attract people to the school district. Are there any questions here?
Comment, but at the same time, I've heard concerns about longevity, that staff have been in the district much longer, but new people who haven't worked a day in the district are getting a bigger percentage than they. Your response?
Yes, sir. And Dr. Beckwith, in some instances, that is true. However, the salary schedule does not address the longevity issues. And we know that that is an issue in all of the schedules, teachers, food service, and others, where employees did not get a raise for a number of years. So they have the years, but their years do not reflect where they are or where they should be on the salary schedule. So this particular approval did not take into consideration the longevity piece.
But would you agree that that creates some dissension in the ranks?
It could. It absolutely, Dr. Beckwith. I do believe that it could. And very well, I see how that's possible. So yes.
And the other thing, and I mentioned this previously, it was pointed out to me where one cook was going to make more than the manager or assistant manager. We need to take a look at that with you and HR to make sure that that's corrected. In my judgment, a cook should never make more than the manager or assistant.
I agree. And Ms. Williams and I have discussed sitting down and just make sure that those outliers are addressed and those issues are corrected.
Continue.
The next slide, Ms. King. Also on the nurses schedule, we see that the overall weighted increase was 6.86%. We only have, I think there are about five nurses in the entire district, I believe. And we see that on step 11, on one of the schedules, the salary was $37,691.52. It went to $40,746.72. That was an 8.11% increase. On the step 6, there was a $33,282.08 salary of last year, and the current salary for this year saw a 5.83% increase, $35,327.76. So again, the whole consensus here is that the overall weight, when you look at the people and the percentage increase, the weight ended up coming out to a 6.86. Are there any questions for the nurse's salary?
None. Continue.
The next was clerical, and we got a number of questions on the clerical scale as well. So the clerical scale is actually pretty wide. I think there are 4 or 5 scales where clerks are categorized and pulled from. So the overall weight of 8.7% took into consideration all 5 of those scales. There are clerical clerks that support directors. There are clericals or administrative assistants who support assistant superintendents. And so when you look at the overall weight there of 8.7%, we just chose one for the director scale, step 12. The salary went from $48,193.60 to $52,728. That was a 9.41% increase. On the administrative assistants, there was a step 5, $49,254.40. The new salary this year went to $51,708.80. There were 2 individuals, and there was a 4.9%, 4.98% increase. And so those are just 2 examples on the clerical scale. Are there any questions here?
I didn't understand what the DIR/print support. What position is that?
So that is either a clerk who supports a director or a principal. So it's either director support or principal support.
Okay, that must have been a typo on my part because I had print, P-R-I-N-T.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir. No, that's principal.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. On the maintenance, again, I met with a number of custodians as well who weren't very clear on the overall weighted average. So when we look at the weighted average percent increase of 8.66, we looked at several of our skilled positions. Again, one of our skilled labor positions, step 1 at $36,501, had gone to $39,520. We had 1 employee there, and that particular person received an 8.26% increase. Another one of the skilled scales that our employees are on, step 6, went from $42,993.60 to $45,760. And there was 1 employee there who received a 6.43% increase. Again, all of this data, we looked at Ed Plus, we looked at what neighboring districts were doing so that we could make sure that our scale was comparison to those. Are there any questions here?
Dr. Singleton, how many steps are there in the maintenance workers? You showed steps 1 and 2, but how many steps are there actually? Do you have any idea?
Dr. Beckwith, that scale is somewhere around here on my desk. I will get that before this presentation is over. I'd have to look at the actual salary schedule, and maybe Ms. Williams Woods is in her office and can pull that information up. I know she has her binder all handily. Monica, can you answer that question on how many steps are on the maintenance scale?
Sure, Dr. Beckwith, were you asking about the maintenance salary scale of semi-skilled and skilled, or the specialists, which are the HVAC electricians and plumbers?
The way he had it is under maintenance. So I'm just asking under maintenance.
Okay, 10 steps.
10, that's what I want to know.
Yes.
Okay. And so my question is, why did you compare, and I'm talking to Dr. Singleton, why did you compare step 1 and 2 as opposed to step 1, step 8, or something like that?
Well, this is step 1 and step 6, Dr. Beckwith. This is not step 1 and step 2.
Oh, okay, my mistake.
Yes, sir.
I got
Not a
it.
problem. No problem.
Okay.
Any additional questions? All right, next one. Just a few more. Instructional assistants, the overall weight was 6.01%. All of our IAs are 9 months. So coming in at a step 0, you saw the salary go from $19,542.60 to $20,802.60. That was a 6.45% increase. Again, now going down to step 5, the salary of $24,318 last year to $25,578 this year, which was a 5.18% increase. So the overall weight of the 6.001 on the instructional assistant scale. Any questions here?
So as I look at this, someone coming in new got a salary increase of $1,260, but someone who's on step 5 got the same salary increase of $1,260. Am I correct?
1260. I believe so, Dr. Beckwith. And those percentages obviously are different as you go down the scale, but the dollar amount, it looks to be the same, the 1,260, I believe, yes.
And I understand what was done, but to the employee, it looks like I didn't get any reward for being on step 5, but someone who hasn't worked a day comes in and gets the same increase that I got. Continue.
Sure. Next slide. So on the MIS scale, again, the same concept, 9.22% was the overall weighted increase. Again, when we looked at comparison data at plus where starting salaries were in other districts, and that's where, that's the justification for making those salary adjustments on those new hire scales. I think there are just a couple of categories on this scale. There are technical assistants and there are technical services. So new hires on the technical assistant scale goes from 33,758.40 to 36,920. That's a 9.37% increase. A new hire on the technical services scale goes from 47,548.80 to 51,708.80. And that ended up being a 8.75% increase. Again, these are starting schedules, and the comparison data was taken from the Ed Plus studies over the course of the last fiscal years. Are there any questions here?
I have none.
All right. I believe the last category was our district safety officers. When we looked at the hourly rates of our district safety officers, we felt that we were competitive, but there was a slight increase given to the district safety officers. So on step 1, 26,094.60, last year's salary went to 27,354.60 for this year. So there was a 4.83% increase there. Step 2, 26,838. Salary was adjusted to 28,098, or about a 4.69% increase. So there's not many steps here. I think there are about 3 or 4 steps on the DSO schedule, and the overall weight was 4.73. Are there any questions here?
And again, it appears to me that someone at step 1 got the same $1,260 increase that someone at step 2 got. Am I correct?
Yes, I believe the math is correct, Dr. Spurgeon.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Dr. Beckwith.
Okay. Continue.
Okay. The next slide. Okay. So just some concepts to leave you with. Overall weighted average does not mean everyone gets the same percentage of an increase. Again, we were limited by the resources that we had available. Remember, Prop E was the reason that we could allow the increases. And so I will say this, our previous salary schedule had a number of deficiencies. Not only were our starting schedules out of whack, but as you mentioned, Dr. Beckwith, there were a number of employees because of longevity who may not have seen increases over time. And so unfortunately, we talked about this during negotiations, and we talked about this, that this particular round of increases did not address those issues. And so we certainly welcome those conversations and how to address those issues moving forward. But the salary schedule from previous years had a number of deficiencies. It was not just in the area of starting pay. There are a number of deficiencies. The other thing is, remember that we increased starting salaries in a number of categories to attract and retain new employees. That was one of the struggles of the school district, was that we were having trouble filling those new hire positions. I know right now we have a number of teacher vacancies, and we have a number of cook vacancies and custodial vacancies. And so we wanted to make sure that we were attractive And that was one of the goals that we tried to accomplish with the different schedules. Again, we looked at Ed Plus salary comparison data to give us a baseline, and that is a salary study that Ed Plus compiles for all of the districts across this area. And so we felt we used the comparison data to justify some of the numbers. Next slide. And again, there were limitations, as I mentioned, placed on the percentage of increase for all groups. The last slide here simply says, thank you to the Special Administrative Board for allowing the raises. You know, we are very grateful that you showed enough kindness to allow us to have some sort of an increase. A number of employees who have been here over the course of time, at least the last 3 years, I understand that there were no raises. And so we do want to thank the Special Administrative Board for allowing the raises. And thank you for working hard to pass Prop B, because that was certainly the driving force behind the raises. If there are any questions, please email or call me. I will try my best to answer your questions, whether it's the answer you want to hear or not. I will certainly do my best to make myself available. I have met with employees. I've responded to email concerns. I've took phone calls. And so if there's anyone who has any questions about the weighted average concept or where you particularly fail, then please, by all means, email or call me and we'll respond. That concludes my presentation.
Okay. Dr. Singleton, going back to the teacher salary schedule, was there what I call a pop at the top, in that the teachers who were highest on the salary schedule got the biggest increase?
Now, when you say pop at the top, are you, when you say highest, are you talking about those
percentage-wise? Those that are near the top of the salary schedule. I'm asking, I call that the pop at the top, if they got a larger percentage increase than those below them in the main.
No. And it was actually the opposite, Dr. Beckwith. The largest percentage increase on the teacher's salary schedule went for the new hires and the lower steps on the salary schedule. If you remember, that's where we were paying a starting teacher with a bachelor's degree. Their salary was $38,433. And if you recall, during our negotiations and presentations with Prop E, we showed that we were the second lowest in the county with that salary. And so
I understand that. I understand that. I thought I saw a document that showed that some of those at the top got approximately an 11% increase.
Okay, you're saying top of the scale, Dr. Beckwith. Top of the scale generally refers to someone who's down on step 18, 19, or 20. That's the top of the scale. If you're talking about the beginning of the scale, then yes, that's where those 11% or 10% or 9% raises went to the start of the scale, if you will, if that's the right terminology to use. Okay. So yes, sir, there were some higher percentages at the start of this teacher salary scale, because we had to take that 38,000 and we had to be competitive to get to the 42,000. And that's where the 11 or 12% increase at the beginning of the teacher scale came from.
Okay, we will talk more about that after I go back through my papers to see if I have such a document. Thank you for the presentation. And I think it was important for this presentation to take place because of all of the rumbling that the SAB was hearing about this. Anything else on your superintendent's report except the back to school plan, Dr. Spurgeon?
Yeah, this is the second one for my superintendent's report. And I just want to make sure that I put this back in front of the Special Administrative Board, our colleagues and our community that may be on the call this evening. Just want to make a couple of brief comments. Number one, this plan to start school on August 23rd, 2021 is very similar to how we ended the school year of 2020, 2021. All adults and students will still be required to wear a face mask. Number two, there'll be no virtual option for scholars except for the Missouri Course Access or the MOCAP option virtual that is mandated by law. The provision that allowed us to use the AMIX extended has expired on June the 30th. And that AMIX plan allowed the district to be able to offer the at-home virtual option, which is no longer available except through MOCAP. All scholars will follow the same contact tracing guidelines as we start the school year. Athletic field trips, classroom activities, extracurricular and co-curricular programs may fully resume as long as health and safety guidelines are followed. And RGSD facilities will be available for use for inside and outside groups as long as those health and safety guidelines are followed. And with one note, I received, we have to make a couple of tweaks to the plan to meet the guidelines that I received today. So I'll be making a couple of tweaks and sending that to the special administrative board that we have to post on our website. So just want to make sure that was in front of everybody again to remind you that we are starting school August 23rd. And this is our back to school plan, which is a living, breathing document where there may be changes and adjustments made based on guidelines that may come forth and or the path of the virus, depending on what happens. So just want to make sure everybody was well versed and brought to speed on where we start school.
Any questions, Ms. Barrell?
This is going to be sent out to the parents or something for them to check the website?
Yeah, it's actually been posted on the website. The SAB approved it back in June, so it's been posted for quite some time, but I wanted to revisit that one more time so that everybody had a chance to see it again, get their eyes on it, be reminded of how we're going to start school. But then once this evening, I know Mr. Sistrunk is going to be singing that out as well. And then I also believe that Dr. Patton is also going to be sending out some communication and guidelines that, like she did last year, to make sure that she clarifies some things for parents. But keep in mind that if folks have questions, they'll feel free to call us and we can help answer those questions.
Ms. Oswald, any questions?
No.
Okay. Dr. Spurgeon, are we going to participate in sports this school year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No other questions. Thank you. To all of the presenters tonight, we have approximately 22 items to cover. So we want you to be thorough but succinct as possible. So let's go to item 7A for information ESSER3 budget application and SAB amended budget workshop. Is that you, Dr. Singleton?
Yes, it is, Dr. Beckwith. Good evening again, Special Administrative Board. The informational item that I'm presenting to you tonight is twofold. One, there is an ESSER3 application that is due by all school districts, and it's due on August the 23rd. And school districts are busy right now gathering data, surveying the community, getting stakeholder input, because this application, it has to be very comprehensive. It's not like the typical application. This application requires input from teachers, principals, the community, students, stakeholders, etc. And so the DESE has submitted or has requested a August 23rd deadline for submission of this particular application. Now, later on in the meeting, you'll see a presentation where we go over some of the ESSER3 information. We have last week on August 5th, we did a town hall meeting at Westview. We did have one resident come out in person, but we had up to 17 constituents attend the meeting via Zoom. So we're very proud to have conducted that meeting. We have a survey that we put out last week as well. The survey was developed by the administration with input and suggestions by all. And so that survey ended on yesterday, and we're tallying the results, and we'll share some of that information later in the program. So the gist of what I'm saying here with this application is it needs to be submitted by the 23rd. And the next special administrative board meeting is not until the 24th. So we are asking the SAB to consider having a special meeting for the purposes of reviewing and approving our final ESSER 3 application, okay? And again, it has to be done by the 23rd. So if there's a meeting perhaps on the 18th or 19th of next week, that would also give us enough time to submit the information. In addition, Dr. Spurgeon and I have met with budget managers to review their 21-22 budget needs. A number of revisions have been requested based on past spending and other obligations. So we also are looking for the Special Administrative Board to give us feedback on if they would like to have an amended budget presented at a regularly scheduled board meeting or at a special meeting, such as the one that we are encouraging the board to have for the ESSER application. If we could also twofold have that as an amended budget workshop to go over the budget in detail. We know there's a number of adjustments that need to be made. We've had a number of discussions about our budgets. And so after meeting with the budget managers and looking through some of those final contracts and details, there are a number of adjustments that are being recommended. And so this informational item is asking the board to consider a special board meeting for those two obligations. That concludes my my request at this point. Are there any questions for me?
Ms. Morrill, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No question.
Okay. Point of clarification about ESSER 2. Is my understanding correct that for reimbursements through ESSER, you have to put the money back in the category that you are asking reimbursement for? Said another way, teacher's fund. You requested reimbursement for COVID related in the teacher's fund. When you get that reimbursement, must it go back into the teacher fund?
So Dr. Beckwith, to answer your question, that answer is no. The guidance that we have been giving regarding those, that ESSER 2 application is that the district must front the bill, we must pay it. We must seek for reimbursement, okay? After we have shown that the bills have been paid, and then the district is allowed to use those reimbursed funds however they see fit, okay? And I will pull that information for you, Dr. Beckwith, from that ESSER 2 application to make sure that that is clear and concise. But from my understanding, the district fronts pays the expense. It's eligible for reimbursement through ESSER 2, okay? And then once you receive the reimbursements, that DESE did not put constraints and tell you you have to spend that money back on the same thing that you spent it on initially. So I will pull that information for you, Dr. Beckwith. I want to be 1,000% sure, but I'm almost certain that is not a requirement that the money go back to the initial expense.
And that's
I will get
critical.
that information for you in writing sometime tomorrow.
Excellent.
I would like a copy of it as well.
No, I'm sorry, but that mic is not on.
I'm sorry, I would like a copy of it as well.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to copy the entire SAB on that, okay?
And Dr. Singleton, would it be appropriate to do two things at the same special board meeting, the ESSER 3, and also any budget adjustments?
Yes, sir. That's the request. So I'm hoping that we're allowed to do both agenda items at a special meeting, and this meeting can be via Zoom as well.
Dr. Beckwith, let me clarify something real quick. And I was going to try to give another example. I think the question you were asking, let's say for an example, if we spent $200,000 out of the technology department and that was reimbursable through ESSER 2, I think you were asking, would that money be put back in the technology budget versus the GOB?
No, was it required?
Okay,
That's-
okay,
Was it required?
okay.
Sure, we could put it back, but does ESSER 2 require you put the money back
from the count of a spin in.
Right,
Mhm.
Okay,
exactly,
okay.
exactly. Item 7B has, Dr. Patton has requested that it be taken off of the agenda, and it has been. So we'll go to our discussion items. Board Docs renewal. Ms. Fields is not here, but the billing or the invoices come in for Board Docs renewal.
Excuse me, Dr. Beckwith, this is Shay. I am on here.
Go
Dr.
right ahead.
Larry, Dr.
Go
Larry, can you
ahead.
present this? Is Dr. Larry on? Okay, well, Dr. Larry's not on. This item is being presented for renewal of our board docs, and it's in the cost at the cost of $17,000 and will be paid out of our technology budget. Are there any questions?
And we get this is well worth it. We get so much from Board Docs by being able to use it. So I fully support this.
Thank you.
Let's go to surplus technology equipment. This is either Dr. Larry or Tomeko Randolph. Who's doing that?
I'm here, Dr. Larry. I'm sorry, Shay, I couldn't get my mic muted. Good evening again. As required by policy DNC, surplus school property, the technology and MIS departments would like to request that the SAB declare the computers, projectors, monitors, printers, access points, switches, phones, copiers, Promethean, smart boards as surplus so that we can have them removed from the various school properties and given to the recyclers. Before I ask if there are any questions, may I please introduce our inventory specialist, who is Ms. Tomeko Randolph, and she is on because after tonight, she will start presenting these surplus items.
Are there questions, Ms. Morrill?
I have no questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
I have no questions, Dr. Larry. The district webmaster, I've got Dr. Larry and Mr. Sistrunk.
Mr. Sistrunk is going to do that one.
Okay.
Yes, good evening again, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Beckwith, Mrs. Morrill, Mrs. Oswald, Dr. Spurgeon, colleagues in community. And for this, this is in reference to the district webmaster, and just a little background information. Tim Hinkie is the district webmaster. He is a retiree from the district. Though he is paid out of the technology budget, he is managed through the communications department. And we are asking essentially that the SAB would consider to approve a renewal of his contract. And so this year we are looking to make some improvements to the website, including incorporating more video on the homepage, simplifying the menus, improving the design and function. Mr. Hinkie also is very beneficial and crucial as a trainer. He trains the staff at different schools and also the administrative assistants at central office on how to maintain their pages. And so I think it would be critical to continue to have his assistants managing the website. The budget impact is $14,400 that is budgeted to the technology budget. And that amount would not exceed the $14,400. So the recommendation would be that Mr. Hinkie be approved as a contracted service for the 2021-2022 school year. An approval, a motion for approval will be presented later in the meeting.
Questions?
Are there any questions?
No question.
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Sistrunk. Project construct has been removed from agenda. So we will go to item E, YMCA Head Start Partnership. I have Dr. Nichols.
Yes, good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Spurgeon and colleagues. This evening, I am requesting board discussion for the district to enter a partnership with YWCA Head Start program. It's a state expectation that school districts establish partnerships and collaborate with local early childhood agencies in an effort to ensure the success of children and families participating in the Missouri early learning programs. The school district and YWCA will collaborate to provide support and services for scholars and families in the areas of school readiness, screening, creating individualized education plans, and recruiting. Before I end my presentation, I'd like to introduce Ms. Stacy Johnson. Ms. Johnson is the Chief Program Officer and Head Start Director for the YWCA program. If you have questions, we will answer your questions at this time.
Questions, Ms. Morrill?
I have no questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
I have no questions. Thank you, Dr. Nichols. Dyslexia screening tool, Dr. Kennedy?
Yes, good evening, SAB members, colleagues, and community. I hope you can hear me. I've been experiencing some
Yes.
difficulties.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so dyslexia is a term used to describe those who have difficulty in learning to read or interpret words, letters, and symbols. The state of Missouri mandates that school districts screen students in grades K through 3 and identified students in grades 4 and 5. Over the past couple of years, the Riverview Gardens School District has chosen the product Ymca to serve as its screening tool. Ymca is a classroom online screening tool that assists teachers with screening scholars to identify the areas of reading deficiencies. Within the first 30 days of school, scholars in grades 1 through 3 will be screened as required by the state statute. Scholars in kindergarten will be screened in January, and again with those students in grades 1 through 3. A final screening will be conducted in April for scholars in K through 3. So scholars in K through 4 through 12 will be screened at the request of a teacher or a request of a parent. All screening results for identified students will be documented in SysK online system after screening. The cost for Ymca is $34,000. This amount has been budgeted for all and will come from both the assessment and improvement of instruction accounts. Are there any questions?
Ms. Oswald?
No question.
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
I have no questions. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Engagement of the independent auditing firm for 2020, 2021, Dr. Singleton?
Yes, good evening, Special Administrative Board again. The next agenda item is the engagement of our independent auditing firm for the fiscal year 2020, 2021. As we know, on an annual basis, school districts are required to do an annual audit of federal programs, of the general obligation budget as well. And so KEB won a renewal last year for a 3-year period. And they are getting ready to start our field work. In fact, they will be on site next week in order to start some of their field work experiences. I believe it's later this week or next week that they will be on site. This is in the district's GOB budget. The contract this year is not to exceed $43,000. So the recommendation is that the SAB approve the engagement of KEB as the independent auditor to examine the records for the 2020-2021 fiscal year at a cost not to exceed $43,000. Are there any questions?
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
I have no questions. General fund balance transfer to the capital projects to eliminate the deficit fund balance, Dr. Singleton?
Dr. Beckwith, this particular agenda item, as you know, we have had a number of exchanges between the board and finance over this item the last several days. The item still lacks clarity. As I mentioned to you in an email earlier today, we are going to ask that this agenda item be tabled at this time or pulled until we can get a better handle on the historical nature of this, and we can get you a more accurate dollar amount. I believe I saw a different dollar amount today that was even in excess of the original request on last week. So at this point, Dr. Beckwith, I do not feel comfortable recommending this agenda item until we've had an opportunity to meet Dr. Spurgeon, myself, Mr. Byrd, and present this item in a more delicate fashion.
And I would support that as chair, and I hope my fellow board members would approve, because I have a lot of concerns why you're asking the board, or administration is asking the board, for a $200,000 supplement that I believe was known before the close of this fiscal year. And now it's that supplement, and you just mentioned it may be higher, is being asked in August. So are we
Yeah,
in
so
agreement?
Dr. Beckwith,
Hold
just
on.
as a
Hold on,
correct.
Dr. Singleton, hold on. Are we in agreement?
Yes, so if we had any
Okay.
questions about this, because I did have questions, we'll just reserve it until they,
Yes.
okay,
Now,
all right.
okay, Dr. Singleton.
Yes, you said 200,000, Dr. Beckwith. Let me correct you. The request would have been for 2 million. It's not 200,000. So the request would have been a fund balance transfer in the amount of $2 million, not 200,000. And that's why we want to make sure we go back and get you the proper information for this. The last document that I saw as recently as today, that number has been adjusted as well. So thank you for allowing us the additional time. Now, again, let me say this for the record, since we're all here, that this may prevent us from submitting our ASBR report on time. On time means August the 15th is the statutory deadline, but because the 15th is on a Sunday, the DESE is allowing this report to be submitted by midnight on the 16th. Unless there's a resolution to this item before then and a meeting to accept this item, then it is very well possible that we will not have an ASBR report, at least with the proper edits, to be submitted in time for DESE's annual deadline.
Dr. Singleton, I would suggest you contact the proper official at DESE and let him know that the report is going to be late and why the report is going to be late. $2 million, that's a hit on the fund balance. And that's another part of my concern. The last budget I saw, the fund balance was going to be 18-point-something%. Now you take a hit of $2 million, that brings it down significantly, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
This is serious business, and I'll leave it at that for right now, but this is serious business. Let's go to the next item, the amended contract for a land lease with Virtual Bridge. That's you, Dr. Singleton?
Yes, it is, Dr. Beckwith. This agreement, I think the last time, 3 years ago, we went into a land lease agreement with Vertical Bridge, and they want to extend this agreement for an additional 2 years to reactivate the cell tower. It's located on our grounds. So we own the grounds where this cell tower is located, but they own the tower and the services. And so this amended contract is being recommended. First of all, it needs legal review, but this will generate a monthly revenue to the district of about $881 a month. In addition, there's a clause that 25% of any new revenue generated by Vertical Bridge clients in the future. So the district stands to gain from this. We had this agreement in place for the past 3 years. And because of COVID and a number of other factors, we had not received any revenues for this particular contract. So I did speak with the tenant here, and he was very optimistic that business was going to be picking up here now that we're on the outskirts of COVID. So the recommendation is that the SAB approve the amended land lease contract with the Vertical Bridge as presented. Are there any questions?
Ms. Oswald?
Where is this tower located?
It's on the maintenance facility grounds. So it's right behind. It's at our facility location where where the facilities and food service department is housed, and that's right here. If you blink at the lights, you'll miss it, but it's right here behind the Domino's on 367 And I think there's a big church parking lot over there as well, next to the flea market and all of that.
Thank you.
Ms. Amaro Real?
No questions.
I have no questions. Continue, Mr. Singleton, with Keystone.
Yes, so this is a very important agenda item here. This contract with Keystone Systems to provide payroll training to the finance department. It is very possible that we could be losing staff at any given time. We know that other districts are hiring, and we know that, you know, certainly there are some districts that are paying more than Riverview Gardens. And so it is a very strong possibility that we could be losing payroll administrator. And so what this agenda item is doing, and because this payroll administrator is the only person who knows payroll, okay? And so we do not need any mishaps or misfortunes in the payroll area. We are asking the SAB to consider this agenda item, which is going to add about $10,000 on a not to exceed to the other professional and technical services in the finance department so that we can get this training. If this is approved, this is asked for discussion and approval tonight. We will have a Keystone representative in here this week, starting with this training. And so the urgency of this agenda item is that we really only, unfortunately, have one individual in this entire school district who knows the ins and outs of payroll. Some of us are familiar with it, but to be able to run payroll from start to finish, unfortunately, is really only known by one person. And that should never be a situation in any school district where you do not have a proper backup person to be able to learn and train on the system. So the request is that the SAB approve the proposal to bring in Keystone for additional training and payroll support to the finance department at a not to exceed $10,000. Are there any questions?
Ms. Amaro Real?
I have no questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Okay. Dr. Singleton, as I recall, a few years ago, I believe the SAB approved the hiring of an additional person to be a backup for payroll. Am I incorrect?
Okay, you said a few years ago, Dr. Beckwith. I couldn't answer that question. We do have an additional person that has been hired in the last year. We do have a finance support analyst who was hired last July.
That's the one.
Okay, yes, sir. And that person has been doing some training with the payroll department. And unfortunately, that training is just not gone as planned. So once again, at this point, the only person who knows payroll backwards and forwards, there's a strong possibility we could be losing that person.
Okay. But board members, that's the reason we hired this additional person a year ago or so, that we would have that backup. I support the additional training.
There's some beats right there if you want a pair of beats.
Are they malfunctioning?
No, that's not.
Somebody should mute themselves. But that was the sole reason that we hired this additional person. I do agree you need to have multiple backups. You screw up a payroll and all heck breaks loose. But my point is that we hired a person for this, an additional person at the request of the finance department. And now we're hearing still that only one person knows how to do the payroll. Let's move on. The custodial supplies, equipment, and repairs, is that Ms. Green?
Yes, good evening, Special Administration Board, Dr. Spurgeon, colleagues, and community. I'm presenting to you tonight. We did an RFP for custodial supplies, equipment, and equipment repair. We had 5 contractors that submitted bids, and we selected Royal Papers to provide us with cleaning supplies, trash bags, paper towels, things like that. Also to buy new equipment to replace any old equipment that we have, as well as equipment repair. at a cost not to exceed $200,000. It has been budgeted out of facilities GOB fund supplies. Are there any questions?
Ms. Oswald,
No question.
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
I have no questions, Ms. Green. Proceed with air purification systems.
Okay, this item is for TACON TMI to provide us with the air purification systems to put this type of equipment on every unit in our school district, every building, anything that supplies heating and air conditioning to improve our indoor air quality. I had asked that this, to do that so that we could put this on all of our systems. This is to be, it was budgeted using ESSER funds for the amount of $383,765, and that is coming from the ESSER funds. I asked for this to also be an action item tonight, but I see that it wasn't put on there so that we could get them up and going so that they could be in the classrooms before school started. Are there any questions?
Ms. Oswald?
No question.
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
I have no questions. Continue with the HVAC theft prevention.
Okay, so this too is part of ESSER funds. This is a way for us to make sure that our HVAC systems stay running to ensure that we have quality air supply in our classrooms, safety and temperatures in all our buildings maintained to make sure that we keep the spread of COVID down in our buildings. This too is out of ESSER funds for a total of $161,478 for TACON TMI to install this. And what this will do, this also will prevent if anybody goes up on our roofs to try to steal any of our lines or cut the lines, it will send an indication to us via computers or cell phones so that we can call the police to maybe stop them from removing our air conditioning systems, as well as making sure that our air supply and air quality is maintained in our schools. So I'm asking the SAB to approve this on August the 24th at a cost not to exceed $161,478.
Questions, Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
No, I don't have a question, but a comment that I'm glad to see that this is being done, the HVAC theft prevention, because as Ms. Morrill remembers, over at Central Middle, they took the air conditioning system and we didn't do it for quite a while. But I'd like to go back to air purification system for a while. Ms. Green, if we knew we wanted this in place by the beginning of the school year, why is it just coming to the board in August?
It's coming to the board in August because the cost of $383,765 was not budgeted in any of our accounts. So my GOB nor could Prop R be used for that until we got the ESSER funds. And once the system was opened up for us to generate any POs, it was mid-July already.
But the ESSER funds are reimbursable, are they not? And what I'm saying is that you couldn't have gotten the money until we were reimbursed.
But Dr. Beckwith, this particular item had to be included in our ESSER 2 application. Once the ESSER 2 application was approved, they have you list out all of your facility projects. So we've got rooftop units and HVAC units that are being replaced, and that had to be a special approval with the ESSER 2 application. So we could not move forward unless we have an approved application and this particular item is listed as an approved reimbursable expense. So before we bought it and got reimbursed, we had to make sure that that DESE was going to approve this, and that's why that's why we're here at this particular point in time, because along with the approval, it had to be listed in the actual application itself.
And that makes sense. Okay. I will accept that. Moving on, special school district, no, community partnership memoranda of understanding. Dr. Patton.
Good evening, SAB members, colleagues, and stakeholders. Tonight, I bring before you several of our community partnership MOUs for discussion. As you all may know, in 2008, St. Louis County voters agreed to a tax increase, which started the Children's Service Fund. This fund makes mental health counseling, evaluation, case management, mentoring, substance misuse education, and treatment for other prevention services available to our scholars. We will continue to develop and maintain partnerships with agency providers in support of our students. We will continue to engage in collaborative planning, track pre and post outcomes, support our schools and our district, as well as our parents and professional learning. These partnerships do not impact our budget financially, as all of these services are free. There's a number of MOUs listed on here. I will not go through all of them in the interest of time. It is recommended that the SAB approve the aforementioned MOUs at no cost to the district for the 2021-2022 school year. Are there any questions?
Ms. Mario.
Will you be presenting the other MOUs that we, of services that we use, or is this it for this year, school year coming up?
No, ma'am. There are a few others that I will be bringing forth within the next couple of SAB meetings, because the vendors did not get the MOUs to me in a timely manner. Additionally, Ms. Real, some of our MOUs are for 2 years. So some that you may be more familiar with or have a 2-year contract. So we won't bring those until the end of this school year for the following school year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oswald.
No questions.
I have no questions, Dr. Patton. The next item is yours also, special school district homebound services.
No, sir, that is not. Well, yes, it is mine. I'm sorry, Dr. Beckwith. Tonight I bring to you the MOU. Well, actually, it's not an MOU. It's a contract with special school district for homebound services. It will, I think there is a $39 an hour, $39.50 per hour service fee for the general education fund. This is in our budget. It's under the student services budget that is shown 9420-6311. It is recommended that the SAB approve the homebound contract with the special school district and the Riverview Gardens School District in the amount of $39.50 per hour for service under general education services. Are there any questions?
Ms. Mario.
I have no questions.
Ms. Oswald.
Do we have any idea how many students this would serve?
Ms. Oswald, I can get that answer for you relative to last school year, how many students it served, and I can email that to the SAB tomorrow morning.
Are there a general number of hours these students are served?
The hours that I believe the hours, Mrs. Oswald, are about maybe 3 or 4 hours a day. It does not reflect a normal school day, but they do focus on just the important, the math, the ELA, and social studies and science, but it does not reflect a full school day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have no questions, Dr. Patton. Federal Programs Parent University Consultant, I have Lakeisha Nelson, Kim Loomis. Who's going to handle that?
Sir, I can give you this information quickly, and Ms. Nelson can answer any questions that you may have in addition. This is a continuation of service and expansion of our program that was reestablished last year when Ms. Nelson joined the district. She's been working with Dr. Patton and all of the principals across the district to expand our parent engagement activities. As you'll see a list there of several consultants that Ms. Nelson has brought forward and proposed, with a new addition of Karan Bolden as a motivational speaker that would be available across the district at a to be determined date and time pending approval. This is asking for the appropriation of up to $5,000 for the consultants and materials necessary to deliver these expanded programs for our parent and family across the district.
Any questions, Ms. Morrill?
I just noticed that some of them have amounts next to them and others do not. Are they giving their services for free?
Yes, ma'am. This program has been very successful. As you know, last year, all of our events were handled through Zoom. We had some limited participation, but we also offered some additional meeting times for specific areas of interest. And so at this particular point, those folks have offered to come back to the district and offer their services.
Thank you.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
I have no questions. Thank you, Ms. Loomis. The next three are from the high school, or the next four from Tracy Nave, starting with St. Louis Community College MOU.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, community and colleagues. Riverview Gardens High School, I'm coming to you today on behalf of the St. Louis Community College MOU for dual credit offerings for the 2021-2022 school year. Riverview Gardens High School, in partnership with St. Louis Community College, is committed to providing dual credit offerings for our scholars. Eligible scholars with a grade point average of 2.5 or greater will have an opportunity to earn up to 12 credit hours in the areas of English language arts, mathematics, science, and a Smart Start course with CTE. Those courses will be taught on our campus through our certified educators once they are approved through St. Louis Community College. We are requesting that this be budgeted through our Title 1A for the ELA Mathematics and Science class, and at a rate of $75 per class per scholar, and $25 per class per scholar for the CTE Smart Start course, which will be paid through our Perkins grant for CTE. All payment for tuition and fees will be covered for participating students through those appropriate funding sources. As such, Riverview Gardens High School has recommended that the Special Administrative Board accept and enter into this Memorandum of Understanding for dual credit offerings with St. Louis Community College to allow approved dual credit courses to be taught on our campus by Riverview Gardens High School staff. A motion for approval will be presented later in the meeting.
Any questions, Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
I have no questions. Continue with Missouri College Advising Corps.
The high school has continued to work in partnership with the University of Missouri System and AmeriCorps to provide Missouri College Advising Corps a post-secondary advising opportunity for high school scholars on our campus. The advisor is stationed on our campus and will be supporting our students with college university admissions and/or career opportunities. They have a set of deliverables that they will continue, which includes assisting students and their families with an awareness of post-secondary college opportunities, supporting our annual FAFSA frenzy, and also finding best fit enrollment for our students among first-generation college and underrepresented students. One MCAC college advisor will be placed at Riverview Gardens High School for the 2021-22 school year to assist students with navigating the college planning, admissions, college and career readiness assessments, and also with scholarship and the financial aid process. At this time, there is currently a no cost to the district for this partnership. I do want to say that there are talks moving forward that this partnership will have a cost attached to it. When I receive that information, I will provide that to the Special Administrative Board. Until such, there is currently no cost to the district for the advisor on our campus. Riverview Gardens High School recommends that the Special Administrative Board approves the Memorandum of Understanding or of Agreement for the 2021-2022 school year with the Missouri College Advising Corps, which will provide an on-site advisor which will provide ongoing assistance to student families on the navigation, planning, best fit admissions, and financial components for secondary education and career readiness. A motion to approve this agreement will be presented later in the meeting.
Thank you.
Any
Did anybody
questions?
have any questions? Did you have any questions, Ms. Oswald?
You said maybe later there might be a charge for this. Do we know a time frame on that?
I'm thinking next year for the 2022-23 school year. I received an email earlier this week, or yesterday actually, that stated that moving forward, they may be working with districts to come up with another budget to support this program. But until then, for this school year, there is no cost associated with the program.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Beckwith's computer went down, so we're going to move ahead.
Okay.
The next item on the list is the high school memorandum of understanding for the jobs for American graduates. Ms.
Good
Davis.
evening. Again, I'm coming to you to ask that the school district, Riverview Gardens School District, support entering into an agreement to implement the Missouri Jobs for America's Graduates Program at the high school. What we're actually asking is to continue on with receiving the TANF funding. The JAG program, FOCI, includes dropout prevention, career readiness, and post-secondary tutoring and employment skills and follow-up services. The program follows our graduates 2 years after they complete their education and allows for them to, make sure that they're getting employed or are also in post-secondary education. This, however, is entering into an agreement to accept the temporary assistance for needy families source of funding. The total amount granted to our district this year is $25,000 for the TANF funding. All the expenses for the TANF funding are reimbursable expenses. So we will spend that funding up front and receive that reimbursement from the TANF source. It's budgeted, the dollar amount is $25,000. General operating budget with reimbursement funds. So Riverview Gardens High School is recommending that the Special Administrative Board accept our request to accept the 21-22 Memorandum of Understanding with the Missouri Department of Social Services to receive a commitment of $25,000 in reimbursable funding to cover allowable expenses for the Jobs for America's Graduates program at the high school. Are there any questions? And this funding does include partial salary reimbursement. We can use this money to reimburse for the specialists on our campus.
Mrs. Mara Real and I are sharing headphones due to my computer going down. So I will ask her, are there any questions?
I have no questions.
Okay. Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Okay. Continue, Ms. Nave.
Next on the agenda is for our athletics new arbiter sports pay system. And I'm going to ask that Mr. Thurwalker and Dr. Singleton start the process on this.
Is Mr. Thurwalker on, Tracy?
Yes, he is.
Okay, I'm gonna let him start and then I'll finish.
Okay. In the essence of time, I'll go ahead and get started if are you there, Mr. Thurwalker? Okay. So Riverview Gardens High School has historically used an assigner to schedule officials for all of our sporting events on campus. The process would include the high school receiving an invoice for all scheduled games in the fall, winter, and one in the spring. We would submit that invoice to the finance department, and the assigner would then be responsible for paying the officials for the games that they worked each season. With this process, we didn't have the ability to really know whether or not, or the assigners were paying and did not know if any of the officials actually worked that game or if they were canceled. So there was a little bit of a concern that if one of the assigners there was no way to actually recoup the funds if they had sent that out to the assigners. So now all of the athletic directors in the St. Louis region have moved to what is called the arbiter sports pay system. And it's used to schedule and confirm all the sporting events at the high school, as well as create a payment for the officials who work our games. This has now been made a requirement of the Suburban Conference Committee. Many superintendents are on the committee. I believe, Dr. Spurgeon, you're also on that committee as well. So this is budgeted through the athletic director's budget. It's not to exceed the standard rate of pay for officials, and the total dollar amount would depend on the number of games officiated. The budget source for this would be the athletics other purchase services account. I was under the impression that there's no fee for the arbiter system. itself. However, all payments for the officials will be paid through that purchase services account. At this time, Riverview Gardens High School is recommending that the Special Administrative Board approve the use of the Arbiter Sports Pay System for the payment of officials during the sporting seasons.
And
Are there any questions? Go ahead.
Mr. Nave, let me just add to this. Dr. Beckwith, I want to make sure that the special, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to make sure that the Special Administrative Board is aware of what's being asked here with the arbiter pay system, okay? Historically, I'll wait. Ms. Morrow Real, you let me know when it's safe to continue talking.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. I wanted to make sure that the Special Administrative Board is aware here of embedded in this request for this new system. Again, as Ms. Nave mentioned, this is the only system, this is the only option we have if we're going to have an athletic program, okay? And the arbiter pay system does require us to make a prepayment of these expenses, okay? So in essence, we're going to deposit money with a third-party vendor, and the officials will be paid off of those monies as the games, as they move forward with the games. Now, typically, this is not a standard practice of us prepaying obligations. In fact, we typically pay after the service has been performed. So I want to make sure that the Special Administrative Board is advised and well aware that this is our only option, and they are asking for us to make a prepayment. So we would set up this arbiter pay with a third-party vendor, and we would deposit based on the number of games and things that we have budgeted. We would make an advance to this account, and then we would obviously have to reconcile once all of this has happened. But I wanted to make sure for the record that everyone knows that this new system is not how we typically would pay invoices here. So with approval of this, you are giving us the approval to make a deposit into this system so that we could have those monies in place for our officials to officiate our games.
Yes, I wanted to say that I recall us having this conversation regarding this system last year. I think it was last year, the year before last, when we were concerned about some officials being paid, and then games being canceled. So I'm very familiar with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oswald. Yes. I mean, Ms. Morrow Real.
Can you hear me? Oh, this way. Can you all hear me? Okay, thank you. Oh, okay.
Can I interject something?
Mm-hmm.
With this new system, that won't happen because I'll be the one that will actually release the funds. So if we cancel a game, the money will not go out to the officials because I'll be the one that will be regulating that. So there won't be situations where an official doesn't officiate a game and still gets paid. That'll be the responsibility of me, to where I will be the one going in and checking off the game. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
And that was Mr. Thurwalker speaking?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. We understand, Dr. Singleton. Pay up front, get your money back later. Is that the way to go?
Well, yeah,
correct.
Pay up front, get the service, reconcile later on. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And if I can also interject another thing on that, when we deposit the funds in the account, if our schedule changes due to whether we cancel games or COVID or something would hit that would do that, the money will then be returned back to the district that's not used. So it won't remain in that account. Like, they'll clear the account out when the school year is over. So any of the unused funds will go back into the district's account.
Is there a minimum amount required to deposit?
In the last 3 or 4 years, our total salary that we spent out on officials has been roughly $15,000. So we want to kind of stay in that ballpark area to have them all covered.
Okay. Any questions, Ms. Oswald?
Been answered. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go to the next item, Federal Programs ESSER 3. I've got Singleton and Loomis.
Yes, sir. Dr. Beckwith, I will be as succinct. I will be as brief and succinct as possible because a lot of this information was shared at the town hall meeting. So, Ms. King, if you will load up the presentation for ESSER 3. That one, yes. The American Rescue Plan, yes. Yeah, okay. All right, so Special Administrative Board, tonight we're just going to give some discussion on the ESSER application, some of the requirements, make you all a little bit more familiar with some of the deadlines and some of the expectations under the American Rescue Plan. Again, this is where I alluded to earlier that we're having a discussion tonight, and over the next several days, we're going to be fine-tuning our plan based on the survey and the town hall meeting that we've had. But the purpose of these funds is to support schools and districts in addressing its impact to COVID. So this, again, is another COVID relief effort. The districts have flexibility to use these funds on any activity authorized by the ESCA, Elementary and Secondary Education Act. So we can spend money on assessments, identifying, addressing unfinished learning, instructional material, after school, summer enrichment. We know summer school is generally understandable, but enrichment activities, professional development, mental health services, and so much more. Also teacher pay related to closures. These funds allow us to pay teachers an additional amount above whatever the standard rate is as an incentive related to some of the COVID challenges that we've been experiencing. So that's a good something to be known with this allowable uses. Next slide. Now, Dr. Beckwith, do you want me to stop after each slide or can I go through the whole presentation?
Let's go through the whole presentation in the interest of time.
Okay, all right. So the purpose here again, the application is due on August 23rd. So once we get Riverview Gardens application all finalized and reviewed, we're going to bring this back to the Special Administrative Board and go through this application so that the board is well aware of where all of the dollars are going to spend and what commitments we must make. Second bullet point talks about the survey that we sent out to parents and students. I will say the overwhelming majority of the people who took the survey were staff. And so we've got some responses, of course, that reflect staff's interests. And so we did have a few students and a few parents take the survey as well. And the application, again, reflects the district plan, how we plan to utilize those funds to address learning needs and a safe return to school. Next slide. These survey results, again, the survey closed on yesterday. And so Ms. Loomis, Ishmael, and myself, we met to kind of look and review what the survey data is saying. And so based on that survey data, we have to establish some top priorities. And we'll see that in the next couple slides. The core approach to all of the aspects of current work in the Riverview Gardens School District must align to our continuous improvement plan. Again, we talked about the town hall meeting we held on the 5th to get input from stakeholders. We had a Zoom/in-person town hall to discuss some of the best needs and uses of these resources. Next slide. So as we begin, okay, all right. So as we begin to create the plan and look at the priorities, again, in August, these are the things that have to happen. This is the reason we didn't ask for discussion and approval tonight, because we had to make sure that we got the survey results and our plan actually reflects the values and commitments here in the school district. So the leadership expanded planning on how to use the additional funds to support the academic and social needs of all the students. Again, the survey results to be analyzed. We'll look at the top 3, but we also looked at an additional couple of those priorities that we'll look at on the very next slide. So next slide. The key priorities here, from the survey results, when we surveyed those individuals, there we go, right there. So the key priorities that came out of our survey were facilities. That was one of the top priorities, and it had one of the most responses. And so facilities is a top priority in this survey related to air quality and ventilation. Our constituents and our families and our teachers wanted to make sure that the air quality in our buildings was a priority of the ESSER 3 application. Also, staff resources. That was a very, very high priority as well, almost ranking equal to the facilities. Staff wanted to see some kind of incentive pay or stipends or additional resources for staff. The third priority was health and safety. So we looked at cleanliness and sanitizing, masks, PPE, make sure we have the right equipment. The fourth priority in the survey looked at student needs. So we talked about mental health supports and social and emotional health. We know that trauma-informed training, we're all going through those trainings right now to be able to offer that assistance to our students. And then the last priority we identified in ranking order. Now, these are all important, but if we rank them in the order that we got the most responses, then technology came in at number 5, okay? So our plan, in essence, will be revolved around those 5 priorities, okay? Next slide. We're going to, of course, incorporate a comprehensive plan, but the focus will certainly make sure that those plans or those measures are addressed. So in facilities, we're going to make sure that our buildings have the innovation and equitable spaces that are necessary in response to COVID. So we're looking at water bottle filling stations and HEPA filters. And Ms. Green talked about, you know, the Hvac, those types of units and things. Those are going to be a priority with ESSER 3. Classroom design, the different spacing and things like that. These are all allowable uses of ESSER 3 dollars under facilities. Next page. So we can also expand spaces in the schools, looking at possibly some STEM labs or robotics. These are things that you can do with ESSER 3 funds. COVID-19 mitigation strategies. We can test the air quality and filters in our school. We can also enhance the existing structures to meet new technology needs. We talked about bandwidth and those things. And of course, cleaning and sanitizing related to priority number 1. Priority number 2 was our staff, investing in our staff, developing and empower staff to improve staff culture. A number of districts are creating incentives, financial incentives related to COVID for their staffs. And so I think this is certainly something that our survey reflected that our staff had interest in. So development and wellness opportunities, board-approved vendors to come in and provide that high-quality professional development and additional resources to meet student needs. Next slide. Expanding STEM education, also providing professional learning within instructional topics and lesson plans and PD, enhancing programming. We talked about this at the town hall, grow your own programs. We know that there's a teacher shortage, but these ESSER 3 funds allow us to grow our own teachers, invest in teachers, and give them the resources to go back to school to earn those certifications to be able to teach our students. And so we talked about a grow your own teaching program. Next slide. Priority number 3 was the health and safety. Again, improving the health and safety in our buildings, cleaning and sanitizing our facilities, our buses, any high touch and high use areas often used by students and staff. So we looked at training on mitigation, processes of social distances, contact tracing, mental and health, physical and mental health wellness programs. Again, all of these things will be embedded in the actual application itself. Next slide. Expanding teacher resources on supplemental educational learning and trauma-informed training. Again, mental health services, staff wellness, after school and Saturday programs. That is also another allowable use of ESSER dollars, ESSER $3, is that you can use after school, and also you can enhance programming on Saturdays to help meet family needs in the school district as well. Priority number 4, we looked at was student needs according to our survey. And so we want to make sure that the educational software programs are there to support our students, in-person and virtual tutoring before and after school, and on Saturdays. The allowable uses of ESSER are very, very clear when it comes to some of these tutoring programs. There's a real heavy emphasis on tutoring. As I mentioned to you before, there's a 20% mandatory minimum to address learning loss with these dollars. And so we can make sure that we sustain our one-to-one program. Those are allowable uses of ESSER dollars as well. Next slide. Again, expanding the before and after school program, also enhancing our parent, university, and family engagement. The federal government wants to see an emphasis on family engagement as well. And so we learned from those student needs that that's an important topic in our survey as well. Next slide. And of course, the priority number 5 was our technology. And again, this is simply establishing Chromebooks, making sure that we're one-to-one, making sure that we have the hotspots and the software for our students to do what's necessary, including if they have to do remote learning on inclement weather days and so forth, that we have the right technology uses and devices for them. Next slide. Expanding technology, again, repair capabilities. We have to make sure that we're able to repair our devices. We've got access to hotspots. We need to make sure that we're enhancing our cybersecurity. Certain websites are forbidden and things like that. So ESSER dollars can allow us to invest in the malware to keep those resources performing at optimal capacity. Next slide, 17. So the budget overview from the survey results, again, the minimum requirement is 20%, but a number of the responses indicated that we could address up to 30% of our funding with learning loss. So student needs, services, and supplemental material could range up to 30% of our budget. Again, $34 million is what we've been allocated. 25% on capital improvements. That's to address air quality, doors, windows, carpet removal. And we got a lot of that going on at this time now. Staffing needs, again, another 25% indicated that there were staffing needs related to COVID incentive pay and dollars, additional dollars for extra duty services. We talked about cleaning services. We can contract some of that out to get some of the professional cleaning, and also purchasing the right cleaning supplies, and also classroom barriers and safety measures so that we can do some social distancing according to the CDC requirements in our classrooms. Next slide. This slide here just talks about ways to measure the impact. And that's one of the components of the ESSER 3 application is we have to be able to report on the impact of these services. It's not just giving us $34 million to spend and we're not accountable. We have to make sure that we report back using our STAR data platform on student learning. We're already doing that through observations and learning on a weekly basis. Demographic data, we're again using surveys to dissect information. Student attendance is also a demographic option and a method by which we can report back some of our results. Focus groups, observations, evaluations of instructional material. These are measures that we can see the impact of what these COVID dollars are doing to our scholars and family in our community. So next slide. So the next steps are, we plan on posting our plan. Once it's been SAB approved, we will post the plan to the website. Also, for those that are interested in the survey results, we would plan on posting those results as well. The district leadership will work on the details and implementation of the plan over the next 3 years. The board will review the SO3 application and budget plan at a special meeting prior to the 23rd. And again, our plan is to submit the plan to DESE by the 23rd of August. Are there any questions at this point about the SO3 application?
Ms. Oswald?
Not at this point.
Ms. Morreale?
It's not a question, but over the weekend, I'm in a class, and this was one of the discussion topics that we had. We actually had someone from an elected official come and talk to us about this. And I just wanted to emphasize that under priority 4 with student needs. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Okay, I'm sorry. Under your priority 4, which is student needs, I circled off the list that was a part of our board docs, item number 7, because there's going to be a lot of emphasis put on whether we're being equitable for students that are homeless. Are we trying to find ways to include them in after-school programs and things like that? To make sure that they're being included in things. So I just wanted to point out that that's one of the things that he spoke about, addressing the needs of low-income families, children with disabilities. He was saying that it seemed like not a lot of emphasis was put on students with disabilities and homeless students. So I just wanted to put that out there.
So if I could address that question specifically, there's some new legislation in a new House bill that talks about IEPs and supplementing specific tutoring programs and services, both for the homeless and individuals with disabilities or IEPs that are identified. So these funds can be used to supplement both on an individual and small group capacity. Talked to Dr. Patton and both Dr. Nichols with CNI as far as trying to come up with ideas on how to meet those specific needs, and then also try to budget so that the buildings have some incidental funds appropriated to meet specific identified groups of students in their school, possibly a before school reading group or an activity group that gets kids to come to school. That's twofold, to increase attendance and then also to have an academic component. So there's a lot of possibilities. This is a lot of money. It's a great opportunity for the district. All the things that are listed there, those 14 components, are all important, and money will go to all of those things. But we wanted to identify the top priorities based on community input from staff, students, and the stakeholders. So yes, that would be a high priority to address specific needs for the homeless, individuals on IEPs, and then in general, the students that are lagging behind that need some remediation, and also for gifted.
Thank you.
Dr. Singleton or Ms. Loomis, what was the approximate ballpark figure of the number of people who participated in the survey?
So the survey responses that we got back when we pulled this data on Friday, originally, I believe it was about 200. When it was finalized on Monday morning, and we did a lot of social media push, robocall, I believe we only got 200, little less than, I think 225 total. And we did.
Yeah, the exact number was 219 that I saw. Okay. So about 219 people.
Okay, that answers my question. On the rest of this, I need more time to study it. And if I have additional questions, I will forward them to you, Dr. Singleton. It appears to me that some of the things that I have seen listed as priorities can be paid for through SO2 reimbursement. Am I correct?
Sure. And but these grants are very synonymous in what you're allowed to do in both of these. Everything is as a response to COVID. So yes, sir, Dr. Beckwith, you'll see that these allowable uses are very similar to ESSER II.
Okay. And the final thing, we have a health center at the high school that, in my judgment, still needs additional work and expanding and so forth. And I believe this would be an excellent opportunity to rev up, improve the health center that we have, health clinic.
Yes, sir. And I believe that as well. And we're certainly make sure we incorporate that into the plan.
Okay, we're going to move on to our last discussion item, training for district safety officers. Dr. Patton.
Good evening again, SAB members, colleagues, and stakeholders. I bring to you tonight the training for the district safety officers for the 2021-22 school year for discussion. Each year, we seek to identify new and different training opportunities for our district safety officers. It is very important that we ensure that our DSOs are retrained every year to ensure the best security practices are in place. Additionally, it is even more important this year as we bring back to campus our students who have been out of the practice of school for almost a year and a half. Topics covered will include the standard operating procedure, crisis prevention, intervention, professional expectations, human trafficking, bomb threats, things like that to keep our schools safe. The cost of this training is not to exceed $2,300 and will be budgeted out of the safety and security budget. It is recommended that the SAB approve the training for DSOs in preparation for the 2021-2022 school year, not to exceed $2,300. Are there any questions?
Ms. Oswald?
No question.
Ms. Mario?
I have no question.
Okay. Dr. Patton, what will the $2,300 be spent for?
It would be spent for their pay, sir, for the day of service. It's a 6-hour training. We will do it August 19th, and all of the $2,300 is specific to the DSO pay for that day.
Okay, has that already been submitted to HR?
Yes, sir. It was submitted to HR in closed session. Yes, sir.
Okay, today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. No other questions. Thank you. We're
Thank
now down to our consent agenda. The open session meeting minutes are for our July 13, July 22nd, and July 29. With that said, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. We're ready for the question. Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion passes. If Shay wasn't listening, I would do all of these action items at one time, but we're going to go through Siri item because she will get on me if we don't do it. Motion
Dr.
for
Beckwith?
approval. Yes.
Just a point of clarification, ask for consideration. I know the item that Yvonne Green presented this evening didn't make it to this action item, but if the SAB doesn't have any major issues around those the air purification systems, I would ask the SAB to consider putting that on as an item of action to get those done prior to school starting. So just thought I would ask if
We
that's.
did not approve that. The proper time to do that was when we approved the agenda.
Understood.
That will have to wait until August 24th. BoardDocs renewal. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. We're ready for the question. Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Surplus technology equipment. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. We're ready for the question. Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. District webmaster. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. We're ready for the question. Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. St. Louis Community College MOU. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ready for the question. Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Missouri College Advising Corps. So moved. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Ready for the question? Hearing none, all in favor, aye? Aye. And the last item, the contract with Keystone. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. We're ready for the question. Hearing none, all in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Excuse me,
There's
excuse me,
G.
Dr.
Somebody
Beckwith.
saying something.
There's G,
G.
training of district safety officers for
I
21,
don't have
22.
any
It's
G on mine. What is that?
Training officers.
Okay, okay. Item G,
training of district safety officers.
training of safety officers. Got it. For some reason, I don't see it on my paper copy.
Excuse me, that was the last one that was approved yesterday, Dr. Beckwith, for Dr. Patton.
Okay, I had printed my agenda before then and didn't
Yes,
go back
sir.
and reprint it. I do understand.
Thank
May I have
you.
a motion for approval
So
of
moved.
the training of the
Yes, sir. So moved.
security officers? Second, ready for the question? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion approved. Approved. May we now have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
May we have a second?
Second.
Ready for the question? Before we vote, I want to thank all of the presenters for being as succinct as you were. All of in favor of adjournment, aye?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.